Get your hand where I can see them. Sergeant Davis yanked Rebecca Thompson's wrist behind her back so hard her canvas bag hit the marble steps with a dull thud. The handcuffs clicked twice before she could even process what was happening. Around them, 50 distinguished guests in dress blues froze mid-conversation, their morning coffee growing cold as they stared at the spectacle unfolding at Arlington's ceremonial entrance. Trespassing on federal property during a military funeral, Captain Martinez announced, his voice carrying across the crowd. "Ma'am, you're under arrest." Rebecca didn't resist. She simply stood there in her second-hand black dress, letting them treat her like a common criminal while colonels and generals watched. Her silence seemed to frustrate them more than any argument could have. "Look at her," someone whispered. "Probably another wannabe trying to crash the ceremony for attention." Major Williams stepped forward. No family badge, no invitation, no military connection whatsoever. He turned to the crowd with a satisfied smirk. Just another civilian who thinks grief gives her special privileges. But Rebecca's eyes weren't focused on the handcuffs or the humiliation. They were scanning the tree line beyond the ceremony site with the methodical precision of someone calculating fields of fire and extraction routes. In 28 minutes, those same officers would understand why that mattered. The morning had started like any other for Rebecca Thompson. 4:30 a.m. alarm, black coffee in a chipped mug, bus ride from her tiny apartment to the Pentagon, where she spent 10 hours a day cleaning offices that held secrets she wasn't supposed to understand. Most days, she was invisible, a 40-something woman in a maintenance uniform, pushing a cart through corridors of power. That's exactly how she preferred it. But today was different. Today, Colonel Marcus Rodriguez was being laid to rest at Arlington National Cemetery, and Rebecca had something she needed to do. The thick morning mist clung to Arlington like a shroud. Rebecca walked steadily through the fog, her worn sneakers silent on the wet pavement. Her hands were steady, but her eyes moved in a systematic pattern, automatically cataloging potential threats and escape routes. To the early morning joggers and groundskeepers, she looked like another mourner. They had no idea they were looking at a ghost. The ceremonial entrance emerged from a mist. Honor guards stood at attention, their brass gleaming. A checkpoint had been established where 2 military police officers were checking invitations. Sergeant Davis noticed her first. He was young, maybe 25, with the kind of confidence that came from wearing the uniform. Rebecca approached with steady pace. "Ma'am, I need to see your invitation and identification." Rebecca stopped 3 feet from the checkpoint. "I don't have an invitation," she said, her voice soft but clear. "But I need to be here." Wade's eyebrows shot up. "You don't have an invitation? Then how exactly did you plan on attending a restricted military ceremony?" "I knew Colonel Rodriguez. He would want me here." Davis pulled out a tablet. "What's your name, ma'am?" "Rebecca Thompson." Davis's finger moved down the screen. "Nope. No Rebecca Thompson on the authorized list." "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to step aside." But Rebecca didn't step aside. That's when Captain Martinez arrived. Martinez was everything Davis and Wade aspired to be. Confident, experienced, unflappable. "What's the problem here, Sergeant?" "Ma'am doesn't have an invitation. Claims she knew Colonel Rodriguez personally, but she's not on any list." Martinez looked Rebecca up and down. He saw a middle-aged woman in discount clothing with calloused hands and tired eyes. "Mung, I understand you're grieving, but this is a closed ceremony. I'm going to have to ask you to leave the premises." Rebecca met his gaze steadily. "Colonel Rodriguez saved my life. I saved his. That makes us family in the only way that matters." Martinez felt the first stirring of curiosity. "Ma'am, if you have documentation proving your relationship to Colonel Rodriguez, I'd be happy to review it." Rebecca reached for her canvas bag with slow, deliberate movements. She pulled out a small manila envelope and offered it to Martinez. Inside was a single photograph showing a much younger Rebecca standing next to a man in combat fatigues. The man was unmistakably Marcus Rodriguez. "Where was this taken?" "Afghanistan, 2018. "Can you be more specific?" "Kandahar Province, Forward Operating Base Chapman." Martinez's expression didn't change, but something shifted. FOB Chapman had been decommissioned 5 years ago. Most operations conducted there were still classified. And what was your role at FOB Chapman, ma'am? I was a contractor. Medical support. Martinez handed the photograph back. Ma'am, even if this photograph is legitimate, it doesn't constitute an invitation. I sympathize with your loss, but I can't make exceptions. I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Before he could pursue that thought, a small crowd had gathered. Among them was Dr. Patricia O'Connor, the base psychiatrist, Major Williams, a special forces instructor, and Second Lieutenant Brooks. Martinez was about to order Rebecca to leave when an elderly man in the crowd suddenly clutched his chest and stumbled backward. His face went gray. Heart attack, someone shouted. Dr. O'Connor immediately pushed through the crowd, but Rebecca moved before any of them. She was beside the fallen man in 3 steps, her hands already assessing his condition. Sir, can you hear me? My name is Rebecca. I'm going to help you. Dr. O'Connor reached them seconds later. The man's condition deteriorated rapidly. We need to get him to a hospital now. But Rebecca was already moving. She'd opened her canvas bag and pulled out what looked like a small emergency medical kit, except it didn't contain aspirin and Band-Aids. Rebecca opened the case to reveal preloaded syringes, cardiac medications, a portable defibrillator, equipment that was restricted to military medical personnel. Dr. O'Connor stared in shock. Where did you get that? Rebecca was already drawing medication. She found a vein and administered the injection with perfect technique. The effect was almost immediate. Within minutes, he was sitting up and talking. That was expertly done. Where did you learn advanced cardiac life support? Military training. What kind of military training teaches you to carry restricted medications? The kind that keeps people alive when there's no hospital for 100 miles. The MPs hadn't moved. They'd watched the entire incident with growing amazement. Ma'am, Sergeant Davis said, his tone noticeably different. That was incredible. You probably saved that man's life. Martinez stepped closer. Miss Thompson, I need you to explain how a civilian contractor happens to be carrying military-grade medical equipment. Who exactly did you work for in Afghanistan? I worked for whoever needed medical support. Sometimes that was regular Army. Sometimes it was special operations. Sometimes it was people who don't officially exist. Major Williams stepped out of the crowd. He'd been watching with professional interest. Excuse me, did you just say you worked with people who don't officially exist? Rebecca recognized what he was. Special forces, probably with significant combat experience. Sometimes, she confirmed. And where exactly did you acquire the medical training? 18 Delta training. Special Forces Medical Sergeant Course, Fort Bragg. Williams' eyes widened slightly. Ma'am, I think there might be some confusion. 18 Delta training is restricted to male Special Forces personnel. Women aren't eligible. Rebecca smiled for the first time. You're right. Women aren't eligible. Officially, the word hung in the air like a challenge. Martinez said, even if everything you're telling us is true, it doesn't change the fact that you're not on the authorized guest list. I understand your position, Rebecca said, but you should probably run my name through your database. Not the guest list. The personnel database, military intelligence. Maybe start with a search for Phantom 77. Williams went very still. Phantom 77 was a call sign. Ma'am, who gave you that call sign? The same man you're burying today. Colonel Marcus Rodriguez, team leader, Ghost Unit 77, August 15th, 2018, Operation Black Diamond. Martinez pulled out his encrypted device and began typing rapidly. Colonel Harrison, the Pentagon security chief, arrived. What's going on here? Martinez briefed him, including Rebecca's claims. Harrison listened with a poker face. Miss Thompson, if you were really part of Ghost Unit 77, you'll be able to answer some very specific questions. Ask away. What was the primary extraction point for Operation Black Diamond? Landing Zone Serpent. Grid coordinates 347986. Harrison's hands tightened. What was the duration of the firefight? 14 hours and 27 minutes. How many casualties? 24 personnel, 23 wounded, 1 Kia. Harrison walked away and began speaking rapidly into an encrypted device. The database search results appeared 15 minutes later. Rebecca Thompson's military record was almost entirely redacted. Black bars covered everything except her name, rank, and a series of commendations. Purple Heart, Bronze Star with Valor, Distinguished Service Cross, Silver Star. Status Ghost. Access Level Cosmic. Contact JSOC Direct. Ma'am, Martinez said, his voice with shock. According to this database, you're listed as killed in action. Rebecca smiled sadly. That's because Rebecca Thompson, civilian contractor, was killed in action on August 15, 2018. What you see standing here is just a ghost who forgot to stay dead. Colonel Harrison returned. Ms. Thompson, I've just spoken with General Morrison at JSOC. He confirmed your identity and service record. He also informed me that your presence at this funeral was specifically requested by Colonel Rodriguez before his death. Ma'am, I owe you an apology. But Lieutenant Brooks stepped forward. Wait just a minute. This whole story sounds like complete nonsense to me. Sir, with all due respect, don't you think this is a little convenient? Harrison's expression went very cold. Lieutenant Brooks, you are speaking about a decorated veteran whose service record is classified above your security clearance level. Brooks wasn't backing down. Ma'am, if you're really who you claim to be, prove it. Rebecca reached for her bag and pulled out a small metal object. A challenge coin, dark and worn, hand-forged. One side bore the number 77. The other side showed a skull with wings surrounded by text that read, Ghost Unit, no official existence. Brooks examined it. This could be from anywhere. Rebecca took the coin back and held it up. These marks represent the number of lives saved during classified operations. Each mark was added personally by Colonel Rodriguez. This coin has 24 marks. One for each person who came home alive from Operation Black Diamond. If you want to verify this coin's authenticity, ask Colonel Rodriguez's widow about the identical coin buried with him. Lieutenant, how long have you been in the Army? 2 years, ma'am. And in those 2 years, have you ever been in combat? No, ma'am. Then let me explain something about combat medicine, Lieutenant. When people are bleeding out in hostile territory, medical personnel don't collect souvenirs. They save lives. This reads Phantom 77 Angel. Angel was my secondary call sign. Colonel Rodriguez gave this to me on a helicopter ride out. Brooks squinted at the coin. The inscription was there, exactly as she described. Ma'am, even if everything you're telling us is true, why would you be working as a Pentagon janitor? Because, Lieutenant, when you've been declared officially dead, your career options become somewhat limited. I clean offices in the Pentagon because those offices contain secrets. I make sure classified documents are properly destroyed. I listen to conversations and report potential security breaches. You're a spy. I'm a patriot. I'm someone who keeps my word. General Patricia Thompson arrived. Colonel Harrison, I understand there's some kind of security issue. Ma'am, we've been conducting identity verification. General Thompson's eyes focused on Rebecca. My word, you're the Phantom Medic. It wasn't a question. I've read the classified debriefs from Operation Black Diamond. Your medical intervention saved 24 lives. The entire special operations community owes you a debt. Rebecca's expression remained neutral. I was doing my job, ma'am. No, Miss Thompson, what you did went far beyond any reasonable definition of duty. Lieutenant Brooks, Miss Thompson's service record is classified at levels above your security clearance. Any further questioning constitutes insubordination. Miss Thompson, I want you to know that your service has not been forgotten. Colonel Rodriguez spoke of you often in classified briefings. He considered you one of the finest soldiers he ever served with. Rebecca's composure finally showed signs of cracking. He was a good man, ma'am. He deserved better. Yes, he did. Would you allow me to personally escort you to the ceremony? But before Rebecca could respond, a black sedan pulled up. A man in an expensive suit climbed out. Deputy Director James Morrison, Defense Intelligence Agency. Colonel Harrison, I need to speak with Rebecca Thompson immediately. This is a matter of national security. Miss Thompson, I apologize for interrupting, but circumstances have developed that require your immediate attention. What kind of circumstances? Ma'am, I need to brief you on a situation involving other members of your former unit. People who may be in immediate danger. Rebecca's entire posture changed. How immediate? We have reason to believe that hostile intelligence services have identified and targeted several former Ghost Unit members. We need your help to extract them before they're eliminated. How many? At least 4. Stevens, Williams, Martinez, Johnson, all living under deep cover, all unaware their existence has been compromised. What's the timeline? We estimate 48 hours before the first hit team reaches their targets. What do you need from me? We need you to help us find them. Your knowledge of their psychological profiles makes you the only person who can locate them quickly enough. Rebecca nodded slowly. But first, she looked toward the ceremonial area. I need to say goodbye first. Morrison checked his watch and nodded. Of course, ma'am. But immediately afterward, we need to move fast. The funeral ceremony proceeded with heightened security but maintained dignity. Rebecca took her place among the mourners, finally able to pay her respects. As the ceremony reached its conclusion, Rebecca approached Rodriguez's widow. Mrs. Rodriguez, I wanted you to know that your husband saved my life more than once. He was the finest leader I ever served with. Marcus mentioned you. He said you were the bravest person he'd ever known. Rebecca pulled out the challenge coin. He gave this to me after Operation Black Diamond. I think it belongs with him now. Mrs. Rodriguez pushed the coin back. Keep it. Marcus would want you to carry it. He believed the living should honor the dead through service, not sentiment. Morrison approached. Miss Thompson, we need to move. Intelligence indicates additional hostile teams are en route. Rebecca took one final look at Rodriguez's grave. Brief me on the extraction timeline. Stevens in Montana has maybe 36 hours. Williams in Alaska might have 48 hours. Martinez and Johnson have even less time. Rebecca calculated distances and timeline requirements. What assets do we have available? Whatever you need, ma'am. This operation has been designated Priority Alpha. Lieutenant Brooks approached carrying a classified communication device. Ma'am, I have an encrypted message for you from someone identifying himself as Eagle 7. Rebecca went very still. Eagle 7 had been Rodriguez's call sign. Rebecca read the message with growing alarm. Phantom 77. The network is compromised. All assets are blown. They're coming for everyone at once. Activate Protocol 7 immediately. Eagle 7 is Kia, but his mission continues. Trust no one outside the family. Rebecca felt her blood turn cold. Rodriguez hadn't been killed in a random attack. He'd been assassinated to prevent him from coordinating the defense of his teammates. Morrison read the expression on her face. What does the message say? It says we're not conducting a rescue operation. We're conducting a counter-assassination mission against a coordinated attack that's already in progress. Rebecca was already moving toward the extraction helicopter. Deputy Director Morrison, I need immediate communication with JSOC Command. We're preventing the systematic elimination of everyone who knows the truth about Ghost Unit 77's classified operations. And I need to know who else had access to those authentication codes because someone on our side is feeding information to the enemy. Brooks stepped forward. Ma'am, request permission to accompany the extraction team. Lieutenant, this isn't a training exercise. This is a real-world special operations mission with high probability of casualties. Ma'am, I challenged your credentials earlier because I didn't understand who you were. Now I do. And I want to serve alongside someone who exemplifies the finest traditions of military service. Very well, Lieutenant, but you'll be following orders without question. Ghost Unit operations require absolute trust. General Thompson approached. Miss Thompson, you have the full support of the United States military. She handed Rebecca an encrypted device. This will give you direct access to the Joint Chiefs if political authorization becomes necessary. Mom, I appreciate your confidence, but this operation may require methods that exist outside normal military protocols. Thompson, I've read enough classified reports to understand exactly what that means. Do whatever is necessary. The helicopter lifted off. As they gained altitude, Rebecca studied satellite imagery of their target locations. Ma'am, Morrison said, Stevens in Montana has gone dark. His communication devices are offline. What about the others? Williams is still responding, but reports unusual surveillance. Martinez has moved to a safe house. Johnson has disappeared entirely. Change of plans. We're not conducting individual extractions. We're going to use ourselves as bait to draw the hostile teams into a single engagement where we can eliminate the entire threat simultaneously. Ma'am, that would require exposing our position to multiple enemy teams. The risk assessment would be completely unacceptable. Deputy Director Morrison, the risk assessment for Ghost Unit 77 operations was always completely unacceptable. That's what made us effective. We're going to establish a defensive position here and send a message announcing my location. When the hostile teams converge, we'll have them concentrated in terrain of our choosing. Ma'am, what makes you think we can successfully engage multiple enemy teams in open combat? Lieutenant, Ghost Unit 77 wasn't successful because we were better shooters. We were successful because we understood that warfare is ultimately about psychology. By choosing our ground and timing, we forced the enemy to adapt to our operational parameters. The helicopter began its approach to the remote airfield in Colorado. As they prepared to land, Rebecca gathered her team for a final briefing. Gentlemen, understand that we're about to engage in the kind of operation that will either end with complete success or complete failure. Ma'am, intelligence estimates suggest we're facing at least 12 hostile operatives. Even with air support, those are challenging odds. Deputy Director, Ghost Unit 77 once held off 200 enemy combatants for 14 hours with only 6 team members. 12 operatives isn't a challenge. It's a warm-up exercise. The helicopter touched down, and the team immediately began establishing defensive positions. Rebecca sent the coded message that would announce her location. Within minutes, intercepted communications confirmed that multiple enemy units were converging on their position. Ma'am, Morrison reported, satellite imagery shows at least 3 vehicle convoys approaching. Estimated arrival time is 45 minutes. Perfect. They'll arrive with planned tactics based on limited intelligence, which means they'll be operating with false assumptions. The first enemy team appeared exactly 43 minutes later. They approached with professional caution. Rebecca watched through her scope and felt the familiar calm. Deputy Director Morrison, she said quietly, initiate the engagement on my signal. The engagement began at 1,427 hours with precision. Rebecca had positioned her team to create overlapping fields of fire. When the shooting started, it was swift and decisive. Rebecca's first shot eliminated the enemy team leader. Her second and third shots disabled communication equipment and heavy weapons. Within 30 seconds, the most dangerous enemy team had been reduced to ineffective stragglers. Brooks watched with amazement, understanding for the first time what surgical precision actually meant. Ma'am, second enemy team approaching from the northeast. Estimated strength, 6 personnel. Rebecca adjusted her position. The second enemy team was more cautious. They attempted to establish a base of fire while maneuvering to flank Rebecca's position. But Rebecca had faced better opponents in worse circumstances. She began systematically eliminating their tactical advantages. Morrison coordinated air support while monitoring the engagement. Miss Thompson, third enemy team, is establishing overwatch positions on the ridgeline. Rebecca acknowledged and adjusted her tactics. Lieutenant Brooks, initiate extraction procedures for our scattered teammates. All hostile assets are now committed to this engagement. Brooks began coordinating with extraction teams. Ma'am, Stevens confirms that hostile surveillance has withdrawn. Williams reports suspicious activity has ceased. Martinez and Johnson are moving to extraction points without interference. Rebecca felt satisfaction as her plan proved successful. By concentrating the enemy's attention on her position, she created the opportunity for her teammates to escape. Morrison watched the tactical situation develop with growing concern. Miss Thompson, recommend immediate air support engagement. Negative, Deputy Director. Let them concentrate their forces. When they're all visible, we'll eliminate the entire threat simultaneously. Ma'am, Brooks said, all enemy teams are now visible and marked. Estimate 14 hostile personnel in fixed positions. Rebecca confirmed target identification. Deputy Director Morrison, You are cleared to engage all marked targets simultaneously. The air support engagement lasted exactly 97 seconds and eliminated the entire enemy force. When the smoke cleared, the airfield was secure. Morrison surveyed the site. "Miss Thompson, that was remarkable work." But Rebecca was already focused on the next phase. "Deputy Director Morrison, I need immediate forensic analysis of all hostile personnel and equipment. We need to determine their organizational affiliation and intelligence sources." Morrison coordinated with technical teams, while Rebecca assessed captured equipment. "Lieutenant Brooks, I need you to examine this communication device." Brooks studied it with growing alarm. "Ma'am, this appears to be American military communication technology, which means someone with access to our most sensitive systems provided the enemy with technological capability to intercept our operational traffic." Rebecca activated the encrypted device General Thompson had given her and began coordinating with assets outside normal command structure. "Deputy Director Morrison, I need you to understand that today's engagement was successful, but it was also a preliminary action in a much larger conflict. The enemy forces we eliminated were expendable assets sent to test our capabilities." "Ma'am, are you saying this was essentially a reconnaissance operation?" The sophistication combined with the intelligence resources suggests we're facing an organized effort to eliminate everyone who participated in Ghost Unit 77's classified missions. That includes approximately 47 people scattered across 6 countries. "Deputy Director Morrison, I need immediate transportation back to Washington. We're going to brief the Joint Chiefs on the true scope of this threat, and we're going to recommend the reactivation of Ghost Unit 77 as an active special operations capability." "Ma'am, are you saying Ghost Unit 77 is going to be reconstituted?" "Lieutenant, Ghost Unit 77 never really disbanded. We just went underground. But now that the threat has found us anyway, there's no reason to remain hidden. Besides, Colonel Rodriguez would never forgive me if I let his unit's legacy end with a bunch of foreign assassins in a Colorado airfield." The flight back to Washington gave Rebecca time to coordinate with her surviving teammates. Stevens, Williams, Martinez, and Johnson all agreed that their retirement had been permanently compromised. Morrison coordinated with the highest levels of government while Rebecca prepared briefing materials. Lieutenant Brooks found himself assigned as Rebecca's aide-de-camp. "Ma'am, why are you trusting me with this level of classified information? I'm just a junior officer." "Lieutenant, trust isn't about rank or experience. It's about character and judgment under pressure. Besides, Ghost Unit 77 has always recruited people based on potential rather than credentials." "Ma'am, are you offering me a position with Ghost Unit 77? "That depends, Lieutenant. Are you interested in the kind of military service that doesn't officially exist, but makes everything else possible?" Brooks didn't hesitate. "Yes, ma'am. Absolutely." The briefing at the Pentagon lasted 6 hours and resulted in decisions that would remain classified for decades. Ghost Unit 77 was officially reconstituted as an active special operations capability with enhanced funding, expanded authority, and direct accountability to the Joint Chiefs. Rebecca was promoted to colonel and designated as the unit's commanding officer. Lieutenant Brooks was transferred with an accelerated promotion to captain. The intelligence breach was traced to its source and eliminated. The formal ceremony recognizing Rebecca's service was held in the same Pentagon office where she'd spent 5 years working as a janitor. General Thompson presented her with the insignia of her new rank. "Colonel Thompson, your service has been extraordinary." Rebecca accepted the recognition, but her focus was already shifting to the future. "Ma'am, I appreciate the recognition, but the most important thing is ensuring this kind of threat never develops again." That evening, Rebecca stood in her new office and looked out at the Pentagon parking lot where she caught the bus every morning for 5 years. The view was the same, but everything else had changed. Her encrypted device chimed. "Eagle 77. The message was brief. Phantom 77. Mission continues. New targets identified. Extraction required for assets in Eastern Europe. Your move." Rebecca reached for her tactical gear bag. Some wars never really ended. She activated her communication device and began coordinating with her team. Ghost Unit 77 was back in business. Colonel Rebecca Thompson walked toward the waiting helicopter. Behind her, the Pentagon continued protecting American interests worldwide. But now she was protecting the protectors. As the helicopter lifted off into the Washington night, her device chimed again. Phantom 77. Additional assets require extraction. Moscow, Berlin, Tokyo. Time sensitive. Rebecca typed her response. Eagle 77. Message received. Ghost Unit 77 is operational. Extraction commences in 6 hours. Phantom 77 out. Some wars never end. They just change uniforms. And sometimes the battlefield is closer than you think. But when ghosts go to war, the enemy never sees them coming until it's already too late. Colonel Rebecca Thompson smiled as Washington's lights faded below. The funeral was over, but the mission was just beginning.